Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. Maya stood still at the center of the archery range, the sun glaring down on her bare arms and sweat trickling from her forehead. Around her, the murmurs of the crowd turned into sharp whispers, and the laughter began, low at first, then louder, biting like cold steel. Her coach, Martin, stood a few feet away with a smug smile twisting his lips. "Honestly, Maya," he said, his voice dripping with contempt, "I don't know why you even bother. You couldn't hit the target if it were the size of a barn." Her hands clenched the bow tightly, knuckles white. She could feel her cheeks burning, not from the heat, but from the sting of humiliation. She had trusted him. She had believed in his words, his guidance, his promises. But today, all that faith shattered like glass beneath his cruel gaze. Maya's heart pounded wildly. She wanted to scream, to run away, to disappear. Instead, she swallowed the lump in her throat and took a shaky breath. She looked straight ahead at the target, a mere 20 meters away. "Blindfolded," she said quietly, almost to herself. The crowd fell silent, confusion flickering across their faces. Martin laughed, a short, sharp bark of disbelief. "What? You think that'll help? You're insane!" Maya didn't answer. She reached into her bag, pulling out the black silk blindfold she always carried. A small, secret hope flickered inside her chest. Maybe this time things would be different. Maybe this time she could prove them wrong. She tied the blindfold carefully over her eyes. Darkness engulfed her, her breathing slowed, steadying with the rhythm of her heartbeat. She nocked the arrow, feeling the smooth shaft between her fingers. The bowstring pulled taut, humming with tension. "Release," she whispered. The arrow flew, swift and silent, straight toward the target. A sharp murmur passed through the crowd as the arrow struck the bullseye, clean and true. For a moment, no one moved. Then the whispers turned into gasps, the gasps into stunned silence. Martin's face twisted with disbelief, anger, and something else Maya couldn't quite read: fear. But before she could savor her victory, he stepped forward, voice loud and venomous. "A lucky shot," he declared. "Try it again." Maya smiled beneath the blindfold, heart swelling. She was no longer just the girl they mocked. She was a storm rising. The days that followed were a whirlwind. The video of Maya's blindfolded bullseye shot went viral online, drawing attention from archery enthusiasts, journalists, and skeptics alike. But with fame came scrutiny. Her coach, Martin, tried to discredit her, accusing her of cheating or trickery. He spread rumors about her past, about her unstable mind. Maya ignored the noise, focusing instead on perfecting her craft. She spent hours every day practicing, blindfolded or not, driven by a hunger to reclaim her dignity. Yet, beneath the determination was a deep wound, a betrayal that cut deeper than any arrow. Martin hadn't just doubted her skills. He had betrayed her trust. Months earlier, Maya had confided in him about her personal struggles, her father's death, her mother's illness, and the growing pressure she felt to succeed. But Martin had used that vulnerability against her, mocking her in private, leaking stories to the press, sabotaging her chances to get sponsorships and competitions. The revelation crushed her. Yet it also fueled a fire inside Maya, a resolve to not just survive, but to rise. One rainy evening, as Maya practiced alone in the empty range, her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "I know what he did to you. Meet me tomorrow, midnight, the old warehouse near the river." Her pulse quickened. Who was this stranger? Friend or foe? Curiosity and caution warred inside her, but the pain of betrayal had taught her one thing: she couldn't trust easily anymore. Still, she knew she needed answers. The next night, the warehouse loomed in the darkness, its broken windows like hollow eyes staring into the night. Maya stepped Inside, heart racing, a figure emerged from the shadows, a woman sharp-eyed with a familiar intensity. "I'm Lila," she said. "I used to work with Martin. There's more to his story than you know." Maya's breath caught. Lila handed her a folder filled with photos, emails and recordings, proof of Martin's double life, bribery, blackmail, and a network of lies designed to control and destroy those who threatened him. Maya's world tilted. This wasn't just about archery anymore. It was about survival, but the deeper Maya dug, the more dangerous it became. Someone was watching her, following her, whispering threats in the dead of night. Her friends started to distance themselves. Her sponsors vanished. Martin's reach was long and merciless. One night, as Maya walked home, she felt a hand clamp over her mouth, dragging her into darkness. Struggling, she managed to break free and ran blindly through the streets, heart pounding, breath ragged. When she finally stopped hiding behind a dumpster, she realized she wasn't just fighting for her career or pride. She was fighting for her life. Days later, back at the archery range, Maya stood once more with the blindfold in hand. Her hands were steady now. The arrow felt like an extension of herself. She tied the blindfold over her eyes, shutting out the world, its lies, betrayals, and fear. This time, she wasn't just aiming for the target. She was aiming for freedom. And no matter what happened next, she knew one thing: she would never be humiliated again. The night air was thick, with tension, as Maya slipped through the shadows of the city streets. Her heart still raced from the narrow escape, the cold sweat trickling down her spine, a reminder that Martin's reach extended far beyond the archery range. She hadn't told anyone about the attack. How could she? Who could she trust anymore? Every step felt heavier, burdened by a weight she was barely strong enough to carry. Yet beneath the fear, a flicker of determination burned brighter than ever. Maya wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for the truth, for justice. The next morning, Maya sat alone in her small apartment, the folder Lila had given her spread across the kitchen table. Photos of Martin shaking hands with shadowy figures, emails detailing bribes to judges, and voice recordings of his threats filled the pages. Her fingers trembled as she held the evidence, proof that Martin's cruelty wasn't just personal. It was part of a larger web of corruption. But how could she expose him without putting herself in even more danger? The answer came unexpectedly. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. "Meet me. Tomorrow. Noon. City. Library. Back room." This time Maya didn't hesitate. She knew that whatever awaited her, the risk was worth it. At the city library, Maya entered the back room where a man sat waiting, his face shadowed by a hood. "You're brave," he said, voice low but steady. Not many would come alone. Maya swallowed her fear. "Who are you?" "My name is Aaron. I'm an investigative journalist. I've been tracking Martin for months. Your story is the missing piece." Aaron slid over a flash drive. "This contains everything I've gathered. If we release this together, Martin's empire will crumble." Maya's hands shook as she took it. "What about my safety?" Aaron's eyes hardened. "We protect our sources, but you have to be ready. He won't go down without a fight." Back at home, Maya plugged the flash drive into her laptop. The files were damning, documents showing Martin's involvement in rigged competitions, falsified medical reports to disqualify rivals, even threats to families of those who dared to speak out. Her stomach churned with anger and disbelief. How had she missed all this? How many others had suffered under his rule? One file caught her eye. A video. It showed Martin meeting with a mysterious man in a dimly lit room, exchanging envelopes filled with cash. The man handed Martin a thick envelope and said, "Make sure she loses the nationals. No mistakes." Maya's blood ran cold. The nationals. The competition she had trained for all her life, the very event that could make or break her career. Martin hadn't just betrayed her emotionally, he had tried to destroy her future. Days passed in a blur of training and planning. Maya kept her practice rigorous, her skills sharpening with every arrow released, but her nights were restless, plagued by nightmares of Martin's shadow looming over her. Aaron became her ally, feeding her information and advice. Together, they plotted a way to expose Martin publicly during the upcoming Nationals, a stage so large that Martin wouldn't be able to manipulate the outcome without everyone noticing. Maya's resolve hardened. She would face Martin head-on, blindfolded or not, and prove once and for all that he was nothing but a fraud. The day of the Nationals arrived with a bitter wind biting at the faces of the gathered crowd. Maya stood backstage, heart hammering. Against her ribs, her blindfold lay in her pocket, a symbol of the challenge she was about to accept. Martin approached, his smile cold and calculating. "You don't stand a chance," he sneered. "Just remember who holds the strings." Maya looked him in the eye. Not this time. When her name was called, Maya stepped onto the range, the noise of the crowd fading into a distant hum. She tied the blindfold over her eyes, the familiar darkness comforting rather than frightening her. Bow was steady, her breath even. One by one her arrows flew, each hitting closer to the bullseye than the last. The crowd held its breath, watching in stunned silence. Martin's confident smirk faltered. Then the final arrow flew and struck dead center. A roar erupted from the audience. Maya pulled off the blindfold, tears streaming down her face. She had done it. But the victory was short-lived. Backstage, Aaron grabbed her arm. "There's more." He handed her a folder filled with damning evidence sent anonymously overnight. Inside were documents proving Martin had bribed officials not only in archery, but in other sports, creating a nationwide corruption scandal. The scale was bigger than they imagined. As Maya read, her phone buzzed again. A new message. "You think you've won? This is just the beginning." Her blood ran cold. Martin was not finished. That night, Maya lay awake, her mind racing. She thought of her father, who had always told her, "When they try to break you, that's when you show them who you really are." She wasn't just fighting for her career anymore. She was fighting for truth, justice, and her own peace of mind. And no matter what came next, she would face it with her head held high. Maya sat in the dim light of her apartment, the weight of the past weeks pressing heavily. On her chest, the message from Martin, "You think you've won? This is just the beginning," echoed in her mind like a dark warning. She knew this war was far from over. Her phone vibrated again, the screen lighting up with another anonymous message. "Meet me. Midnight. The old observatory." Despite the fear knotting her stomach, Maya felt a strange pull toward the unknown. Midnight came with a cold wind that howled through the empty streets. At the old observatory, Maya's footsteps echoed in the cavernous darkness. The place was abandoned, a relic from a forgotten time, its walls cracked and crumbling. A shadow moved near the entrance. "Show yourself," Maya called, voice steady but wary. From the darkness emerged a figure, tall, cloaked, and cautious. "I'm Lena," the woman said softly. "I was one of Martin's victims too. I lost everything because of him." Maya's heart quickened. Another piece of the puzzle. Lena revealed a story of manipulation and deceit far deeper than Maya had imagined. Martin had been using his influence not just in sports, but in business and politics, blackmailing powerful people to cover his tracks. "He's dangerous," Lena warned. "But he's afraid of one thing: exposure." Together, they devised a plan to bring Martin down once and for all. Days later, Maya returned to the archery range. The place that once held only pain and betrayal was now her battleground. With Lena's help, She secretly recorded Martin's conversations, gathering proof of his crimes. Each day brought new risks, close calls with Martin's henchmen, threats whispered in the shadows, and moments of doubt that clawed at her resolve. One evening, as Maya practiced blindfolded, a strange calm washed over her. She realized the blindfold was more than a symbol of her defiance. It was a shield against fear and doubt. With each arrow released, she reclaimed her power, her identity, her freedom. But Martin was watching. At the next competition, as Maya stood ready to shoot, a hidden camera caught Martin slipping an envelope to the judge. The crowd cheered as Maya's arrows hit bullseye after bullseye. But behind the scenes, a new betrayal was brewing. After the competition, Maya confronted Martin in the parking lot. "You can't win," he sneered. "This game isn't about skill, it's about control." Maya's eyes burned with defiance. "Then it's time you lost control." Just then, police sirens wailed in the distance. Aaron and Lena appeared, holding evidence that Martin had been caught red-handed. The empire was crumbling, but the fight was far from over. Martin's network was vast, and his allies were desperate. Maya knew the road ahead would be dangerous, but she was no longer alone. The courtroom was packed, every seat taken by journalists, archery fans, and curious onlookers. The buzz of whispered conversations filled the air, but Maya felt nothing but a cold calm settle over her. After months of fear, betrayal, and struggle, the day had finally come to face Martin in front of the law. She stood tall, her bow symbolically, leaning against the wall behind her, a quiet testament to her journey. Her lawyer began laying out the case. The evidence gathered, secret recordings, documents, eyewitness testimonies, painted a damning portrait of Martin's corrupt empire. But it wasn't just about archery or money. It was about the lives Martin had destroyed, the trust shattered, the dreams crushed. Maya listened carefully as victims stepped forward, their voices trembling but resolute. One by one, they spoke of their experiences, how Martin manipulated them, forced them into silence, and threatened their futures. Her own testimony was the strongest. She described the humiliation, the betrayal, and the courage it took to rise again, blindfolded against all odds. As she spoke, she noticed Martin's face twitching with fury. His smirk had vanished, replaced by a cold, defeated glare. Outside the courtroom, reporters clamored for statements. Maya took a deep breath and said, "Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find who you really are." Weeks later, Martin was sentenced to prison, his empire dismantled piece by piece. Maya returned to the archery range, but this time it was different. She was no longer just an athlete or a victim. She was a survivor, a fighter, a beacon for anyone who had been broken and left behind. Her bow in hand, she faced the target one last time. Tying the blindfold over her eyes, she closed her mind to distractions. Her first arrow flew true, striking the bullseye. Each arrow after was more confident, more powerful. The crowd that gathered cheered, not for a show, but for a story of resilience, strength, and hope. In the quiet moments after the competition, Maya sat with Aaron and Lena, the two people who had stood by her through the darkest. "Oh, times, I never thought I'd get here," she admitted. Lena smiled. "You did more than get here. You changed the game." Aaron nodded. "Your story will inspire others. That's the real victory." Maya looked out at the horizon, the setting sun casting a golden glow. Her journey had been painful, but it had led her to a place of peace. She realized that true strength wasn't just about hitting the target blindfolded. It was about facing the unknown, standing up when others want to see you fall, and believing in yourself even when no one else does. The story of Maya's courage spread far and wide. Emails poured in from people who had suffered betrayal and pain, but found hope in her journey. She began speaking at events, sharing her message of resilience and transformation. One evening, as she prepared for a speech, Maya's phone buzzed with a new message. It was from an unknown number. "Thank you. Because of you, I'm finding my strength too." Maya smiled, softly, feeling the warmth of a new beginning. Her past no longer defined her. She had rewritten her story, and now she was ready for whatever came next. The end.